These little plastic sprouts have infiltrated dance floors across North America in only 2 short years. And what really baffles me is that when I asked around, nobody seemed to know where they came from or what they even mean. I'm pretty sure that you've seen them around. On people's hair, caps, backpacks, they're basically everywhere now. Trends in the rave scene are generally few and far between, and most of them definitely haven't reached the same level of virality as these sprouts. These post-pandemic rave symbols were pushing me to get to the root of it all, even if I looked a little crazy in the process. Not only did I stumble across a dubstep act and a super lush festival in the Midwest, I also got introduced to a Chinese cartoon that I had no idea existed. This sprout, as weird as it sounds, could be giving us clues into the future of raving culture. Maybe Plur is still alive and well after all. Look, I'm no stranger to seeing people exchanging candy at events. They're a staple in our community, but for some reason these felt a little different. When I first saw them, I thought they were just another college kid fad, but when I started seeing people of all ages rocking them too, that's when it was virtually impossible to ignore them. Meanwhile, my friends were just assuring me that it was just another fun thing you do, but was it really? We were all cruising in our own little bubble of ignorance and I low-key wanted to burst it. So naturally, I went to Reddit to see if anyone had some answers.
Someone told me it means people aren't acid. I'm actually glad I found out it's not that, so I don't tell someone wrong information later.
I'm glad you had that sorted out as well, Ilye. While I continued digging, I came across something that seemed plausible.
I believe it started as an Earth Day thing back in 2014.
Huh. Earth, green, climate change. The connection was there, still pretty abstract though, which gave me more questions than answers. Game on. I was ready to go down that rabbit hole. Yes, I know how it sounds, but I couldn't help myself. I wanted to trace back the origins of a tiny plastic trinket that people wore while high. I tried looking for news articles, magazines, features, but nothing. Just tumbleweeds and whatever this is. So I just jumped back into my favorite online place, Reddit. Turns out, many people were actually asking the same thing I was. Success! At least I found some people that were matching my crazy. Everyone was mentioning a dubstep duo I've never heard of called Ganja White Knight. Yes, I know, I'm still trying to get into dubstep, so please bear with me. But if you see their logo, it's a brain with some plants coming out of it, like actual sprouts, and Redditors were attributing these trinkets to the duo.
Definitely Ganja White Knight. I've talked to many Ganja White Knight fans that talk about their first time being sprouted at a Ganja event.
Ganja White Knight!
They started from the artist Ganja White Knight as their main logo is a brain with a sprout growing out of the top.
Perfect, so mystery solved? The explanation seemed credible. The themes of growth and evolution were there, yet something still seemed a bit off. Most of the accounts of people being sprouted at a Ganja White Knight show were mostly reported in the last couple of years. Maybe Ganja White Knight wasn't the answer to everything? Well, Reddit still had more information nuggets to show me.
I got sprouted for the first time at Electric Forest in 2023, and my friend told me that it's your antenna that connects you to the aliens in space.
Aliens? I wonder if they can read our thoughts. Wait, no, let's focus. The next clue was a festival called Electric Forest, where sprouting was particularly popular.
I saw them first at Forest last year.
I saw some last year at EF, but it got really popular since then, and now they're very trendy.
I got sprouted twice at Forest. It was great.
Good on you, man. But like, they really had a massive presence there. There were literally hundreds and hundreds of them.
Sprouts were by far one of the most littered items we found on the festival grounds, perhaps rivaling cigarette butts.
Ouch. But if you think of it, the sprout connection there seemed very fitting. Probably one of the most lush raves I've ever seen in my life. Even the ravers there are also very peculiar. I think they call themselves wooks. Talk about bringing back hippie culture. So now I had found this community that emphasizes growth and self-discovery. The connection there didn't seem so far-fetched. And also, who wouldn't want to wear the shirt? I mean, come on. And guess what? As I was taking a closer look at past Electric Forest lineups, it appears that not only did Ganja White Knight perform some B2B sets there, they also headlined the festival a few years back. This could explain the cross-pollination between their fans and Electric Forest. Anyways, the main question was still pending though. Sure, they were massively popular there, but how did it all start? By now, most of the threads were beginning to sound like folktales. Heck, I was starting to doubt everything. Reading through so many posts in the early morning hours got me so overwhelmed that I began to question if I was even looking in the right places. Or was I going too far with trying to trace back the origins of the plastic plant? Even if I did find something, I'm sure it would only end up as a fun fact at somebody's dinner party. Yet, deep down, I couldn't just leave it like that. I needed to find an answer. Any answer. For that to happen, it would just require more time than originally planned. I let a few more days pass, hoping to tackle it with a fresh pair of eyes. As I tried to get back into the groove, I spotted this very odd comment.
My husband first saw these in an article about China back in the day. I first started bringing them to Forest to pass out, and it was at least as far back as 2016.
Wait, not only were they referring to the practice being done a decade ago, it looks like somebody got inspired from a Chinese trend and just decided to bring some sprouts to Forest themselves. Had I just hit a gold mine? So, Forest was the real ground zero of where they actually became popular. And they included a link? Of course I had to click it. As soon as I opened it, I just saw floods of people sporting the plastic trinket on their heads. From kids to grown men, I must say that China definitely went through a phase. Wish I could have seen it in person back in the day. Okay, I finally had more evidence in front of me. But where was the actual root? As I read news coverage on the trend, luckily some news articles were also trying to decipher where the trend had started. And some of them were pointing to a kids show called Pleasant Goat and the Big Big Wolf. The TV show has many different types of characters. Aww, look at how cuddly they are. But how is this even related to sprouts? I went all in and decided to click on a random episode. Now you have me watching in awe as these characters solved mysteries in Mandarin. Didn't understand a thing, but I was still in awe. Until, hold on, one of the goats has a green thing coming out of his head. This was hilarious. The character even had a name, Slow Goat. Before Raves facilitated growth and self-discovery, there was Slow Goat. Okay, maybe not that deep, but he sure has some nice foliage sprouting out of his head. The thing is, the show came out in 2005, 2 decades ago. I was 11 years old, for goodness sake. It just felt like too much of a stretch to declare that the leap to actual human heads had happened at that time. But a quick search scratched my itch. Pleasant Goat is still pretty much alive and airing new episodes, so it was probable that the crossover happened much later than that. It was all instinct at this point. China and the early 21st century were all the pieces of information I had. Yep, pretty vague. I needed more bits of information, which required more and more scrolling. Then, I bumped into this headline.
Throwback Thursday, when a plastic plant became Beijing's hottest hair accessory.
Oh wow, was I starting to get warm? Beijing, huh? Still, this was a throwback, and the date of the original posting was unknown. But when I skimmed through the article, some pixelated pictures came up. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that quality is definitely before the iPhone X. From there, I got to work and opened a bunch of tabs that linked to the Beijing trend specifically. All of them were dated in the late summer of 2015, so I was able to get the time frame nailed down. But even when I skimmed, scrolled, and browsed, all articles were referring to the origins of the trend as a giant mystery. I tried, but at least I got somewhat close. The sprout had origins from somewhere in Beijing, but it wouldn't stay there for long. So how did it catch on in the rest of China? Well, that's the best part. I was saving up that part as it had been a constant through many news reports I read. Every single one mentioned the same turning point. Things really exploded when a major Taiwanese pop star got a hold of a sprout and decided to document his purchase. His fan army was quick to mirror him, and in a short time, they began to sport the thing on their head. For the people that didn't know who Tiësto was or what was going on, they still wanted to try one themselves. Soon, the plant had taken over China, and people who didn't wear one had suddenly become uncool. Some people in the US did take notice of the viral phenomenon. Teen Vogue and the New York Times released their very own coverage on the issue, and others independently hopped on the train by ordering their own batch of sprouts, just like this person's husband. Could this person be completely responsible for the birth of this new wave of plur? Or at least one of the first evangelists in our scene? That I don't know. I tried sending them a message, but I only got crickets in return. But hey, at least I now have the broad strokes of the story. Electric Forest was the Midwest Super Spreader event, and Ganja White Night fans definitely played a part as well. So great, a legit explanation on how they materialized on the dance floor. but I still didn't quite get what made them so special in the first place.
It's a symbol of friendship through music. Other gifts may be ducks, stickers, and other trinkets. I was even gifted a small keychain vibrator at a festival.
A symbol that we're all growing, and a reminder to hydrate.
A couple of hours and a few more sips of coffee later, all the threads started to blur with one another.
Doesn't mean anything that I know of. People started gifting them at shows a couple of years ago, and now they're a lot more common.
Nobody knows what it means, but it's provocative. It gets people going.
They're just cute. They don't mean anything.
No leads, no consensus. Come to think of it, not even the Chinese had a concrete answer. When reporters also asked them about their meaning, they simply didn't know or care. They knew that they just made them happy. In a similar way, that kind of energy was also present at Raves. I would see people light up whenever they got sprouted. That was all that really mattered. When I realized that, my perspective shifted completely. I actually did not expect this at all. Then as I read more between the lines, comments like these started to make more sense.
I'm sure it means different things to different people, and to some it means nothing at all. But to me, it symbolizes seeing the potential in someone. You are growing into something lovely and all-worthy. Don't give up. Keep growing and spreading your roots.
I was now sure that an online forum would never give me a definite answer. I was looking in the wrong direction, and yet the answer had been in front of me this whole time. I had forgotten to turn inward, to the raver community, where dance floors are filled with candy trading, gift giving, and generosity. Sprouting was basically a continuation of that. A way of spreading good vibes with others. A forum of advancing peace, love, unity, and respect. All of a sudden, all kinds of individual interpretations now seem valid. Yes, even the one that said that sprouts connected us with aliens. So with that, I was able to close the case while leaving with a new outlook. These silly little plants were really touching people in ways I didn't really understand before. And honestly, now I get it. I'm sure we can agree that being sprouted feels really damn cool, especially when you discover them out of nowhere right after destroying the dance floor. Chef's kiss. Having that in mind, it's probably my time to return the favor. Speaking of which, I don't normally go to the Midwest to rave, but I guess I should consider it now. What I do know from personal experience is that one of the festivals where sprouting is growing like crazy is EDC. That festival sure has experienced Plur in all its forms. I recently made a video on how it went from this tiny local rave to the largest dance music festival on the continent, so be sure to check it out. Also, patrons in the description, and peace out.